Okay. Arc Rise Fantasia conquered! Yay! Holy freaking cow, man. This was by far one of the most insane game experiences that I've had in a very long time. Um, it's been a long time since I fought bosses like this, where you could grind, or you can take the Crayson approach and just, like do these minor things to experiment and see what happens. It's kind of funny too that the very last attempt, which was my final experimentation basically, before I was gonna decide to go grind, was the one where I actually overcame it all. But yeah, overall thoughts on Arc Rise Fantasia. I think the beginning and most of the middle actually started off really good for me. I came across realizations. I started understanding the systems. I started exploiting the systems in my favor, and it felt really good as that progression happened for me. But once I reached a couple of roadblocks, those were like huge roadblocks. And it wasn't necessarily the difficulty of those roadblocks, it was the length of time that it took me to overcome those roadblocks. And it all started with that protection Rogress fight, where it was just taking like an hour long to fight a boss that is not really all that threatening, but it's still taking an hour because, nonsense. So I think encapsulating all of my thoughts in this game, it's definitely that even though I'm a person who enjoys the journey and the endings of a game don't necessarily tarnish, my experience with the game, this actually kind of had the opposite effect, where I was enjoying the journey until I reached those points where the game was pushing back against me too hard. And that drastically reduced the enjoyment I had with it, because I don't think this game really has a whole lot to offer. It's neat. It has some great ideas. I think its combat system is pretty cool. I don't think I've ever encountered a combat system like it. There's a lot of things that I like about it. But again, like, the game pushes back against you with so much force. I think if I were to... I was level 47 when I was fighting that boss. And that boss was level 68. If I were to fight some enemies, and maybe somehow keep up, I think I would have probably been like 52 or something like that. There was just this huge spike that happened, and I don't know how you are supposed to reach the expectations there without having to grind or some other type of way to get experience. I'm just not really sure. The fact that this boss was beatable when I was 20 levels down is certainly interesting. I'm glad that I didn't have to grind, or else, like I said, we'd be here probably for the rest of the week and I would grind up to level 60. And we wouldn't have want that. So, yeah, overall thoughts. I had fun until I didn't, and when I started not having fun, that's when it all went downhill. And hey, Digital Hearts did the quality assurance. Let's go, Digital Hearts. Let's go. But yeah. Story, was it satisfying? Not really. I think the story of this game was passable until it started running into elements where it just it really wasn't doing anything to further any enjoyment of it. It just felt like it was going on and just happening. I still don't really understand how code works or anything like that. It seems like that's a large proponent of the game, and I just don't quite understand
Mark, it's time to get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
You're making this take longer. I need my tacos today, okay?
We all left messages for you for when you wake up.
We didn't want you to feel lonely, you know? Pretty sweet wake-up call, don't you think?
According to Sonia's calculations, you'll probably be waking up 500 years from now.
Things are crazy since you've gone to sleep, but Alf's been working real hard. I think the Empire will be a much better place the next time you see it.
We're doing everything we can to support him.
Of course. I'll be going back to sleep myself in 5 years.
As long as there's hope, people can always move forward. We'll do our best to live on until the big day arrives.
You guys...
So don't worry. You won't be all alone when you finally do wake up.
Even if it isn't us, somebody that carries on our legacy will be there to greet you.
In 500 years, you'll be entrusted with the world.
We're almost out of time. See you around, Lark. You were the best friend I could have ever asked for.
Bye-bye. See you in the future.
What about Rex?
Don't forget about me.
Farewell, Lark. I'll always be proud of the time I spent with you.
What about Rifia? Where's Rifia? I can't believe she didn't even leave me a message. Did she forget about me?
I never forgot about you. Good morning, Lark.
Rifia.
Didn't I tell you? I said I'll be waiting.
I finally realized something. I'm so stupid. It took me 500 years, but I figured it out. Now, I'm never gonna let you go.
Oh, Lark.
So, Rifia, shall we? Let's go back to the world we fought to protect.
Okay. Did it feel complete? Sure. I feel like they wrapped up things. And sure, fine. Congratulations, you successfully did that. How was the pacing? I think all things considered, the pacing was actually pretty solid. I do feel like it was disrupted when there was the whole we have 4 locations that we need to go capture Rogress, and I think there were some large issues with that particular section of the game because after you collected a Rogress, then something happened that prevented you from collecting more Rogress because it was so important that it was more important than collecting Rogress. So we went to go do those things, and it happened every single time, and it got kind of annoying, and it was bothersome. But aside from that, which honestly was a pretty significant portion of the game, but aside from that, I feel like the pacing was pretty good. We were on track to do what we had to do, and we weren't really sidetracked all too much. Thoughts on the story? This is probably the only thing that I'm going to mention about this, and this is probably my biggest and most significant criticism of the game. And it sure is annoying when assumptions and misunderstandings happen, and there are no ways to clear them up. This entire game's plot hinges on characters being as vague as possible and then punishing us for not knowing what they know or refusing to let us explain. I think there's too many scenarios in this game where a character could just say, you know what, sit down, let me explain everything that's going on, and after I explain that, then you're going to understand where I'm coming from, and we can talk this out. Instead, everybody just gets angry and they do these stupid things, they walk away. When we want to kill somebody, we don't kill them, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. And honestly, those types of stories are probably the most frustrating stories to deal with, because if all of this could have been prevented if we just sat down with Alf and the rest of the crew and just talked it out and said, all right, tell me what you know, I'll tell you what I know, and we can figure out how to move on from here. The writing, so interestingly enough, the writing in this game is not great, but the little skits that you get when you press like the L button, I think those were really well written. It's kind of like this game had two different writers, and there are some good moments during like the voice acted scenes and things like that, or the main story segments. But I do think that they're vastly inferior to the segments from the little skits and things like that. So I thought that was interesting. I wonder if they either I wonder which one they wrote first and which one they added later, because it definitely feels like one of them came afterwards, and it could be either one. It could be neither. What do I know? Characters, there's so many Sucklefoo characters in this game. Alf is a Sucklefoo character. Adele is a Sucklefoo character. Dinos is a Sucklefoo character. Again, just like the whole misunderstanding thing and just not talking or explaining or just having communication going on. It's so obnoxious, and it propels this game far longer than it needed to be, or takes it in a direction that it just didn't need to go. If these characters talked to each other, we probably could have had some interesting interactions with us teaming up to get Rogress and combining our power and doing all that stuff. For gameplay mechanics and design, what gameplay elements stand out? After dying to the Afonk water boss in the caves, the importance of weapons clicked with me. The armed forces, the secret abilities, and equipping the correct weapon for the next fight. So yeah, this was the moment where I reached my a roadblock, but I evaluated the tools that I had available to me, and I saw the light at the end of the tunnel of what I needed to do to overcome the challenge in front of me. And that felt great, because once I hit that boss, I was one-shotting bosses, or I was beating bosses in one try after that for a significant portion of the game. And then I just hit another roadblock where bosses just started taking a really long time, but I was still, killing them. But I valued that moment of it clicking for me, because it was one of the better moments of this game for me, is figuring something out on your own and then executing it and having it work. Those are great moments in video games. I like how armed forces are implemented. The customization options are fun to puzzle together. I think this was great. You know, I fought against the boss that took 2 to 3 hours to beat, and I didn't beat it. And so I went back to my armed forces and my weapons, and I said, okay, let me see what other combinations I could do to see if this could be easier for me. And that uh, puzzling together is one of the bigger enjoyments that I got out of this game, is trying to figure out what I could change, and the amount of customization that you have available to you is really, really nice. I also like how weapons themselves aren't providing stat increases. They are solely there for their secret ability and their static arm forces that they have in them. I like this too. It was a nice little twist on the equipment system. You can equip whatever weapon you want. Those weapons effectively don't give you anything. It's how you utilize your armed forces to get the secret ability and what the abilities are already in there, which, you know, some of them have repeats and things like that. So you can tailor your playstyle to the weapon you want, and you can also do riskier or more defensive things depending on what weapon you equip and what you put in those weapons. And each character has a variety of different combinations, so it's really cool. You have a lot of options to play with. When I said 3 to 6 attempts for bosses is a good spot for me, that wasn't taking into account 25+ minute boss fights. So yeah, I typically say that I don't really like playing difficult games. And so when I play a game, 3 to 6 attempts to beat a boss is a good spot. If you're taking any more than that, you know, it's probably going to be detrimental to my enjoyment. But that also means that those boss fights are not going to be insanely long. Again, I spent 5 hours on this boss today. That's a lot of time to be spending on a singular boss. 2 phases, singular boss. Right? And that's not even taking into account the time that I had to spend on it yesterday either, which is probably another 2 to 3 hours. It's absolutely ludicrous. Combat, the bosses are pretty tough. If only you knew when you actually wrote that, Axelrod. I'd love to be able to see their armed forces grid to see how much they are cheating. This would have been quite interesting, actually, because I'm pretty sure that these bosses don't have a grid size the same way that we do, because they have too much bullcrap in there. Frantic defense is by far the most obnoxious thing to exist. Facts. Especially because it can reduce the damage completely, or it could just reduce the damage by like 90%, 70% or something like that. It's insane. Crystals respawning sure are obnoxious. Heck yeah. The turn order isn't very consistent. The more I played this game, I think the more that there is consistency with it, but there are moments where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because when you look at the turn order, you expect each little cue card to happen before the cue card after it happens. But there have been multiple instances, especially on that final boss, where we have items behind the boss, but we use those items before the boss casts their spell or their ability or something like that. And it really doesn't make any sense why it would do that. If speed or something like that is being taken into account, it should reflect on the turn order. And I guess there are some instances where that's not happening. Could be a bug. I don't know. When selecting an action, the camera is zoomed in on the character, but when you choose the option and select the target you want to hit with the action, the camera moves to the target. In quick succession, it's very nauseating. This was kind of obnoxious, you know, just the camera, you know, like zooming in and zooming out and zooming in, zooming out, and it's going crazy. I don't need any of that. For dungeons, I didn't have any favorite dungeons, but I do appreciate that a lot of the dungeons were actually fairly short. So yeah, that was nice. Cardinal sins: removing a key party member without sufficient replacement. I lost count how many times Nico left my party. I'm so glad I stopped using him after that one time where he left my party, because he would have left my party like 3 or 4 more times and screwed me over. So there's that. Backup party earns less experience, maybe. I feel like backup party members don't earn less experience, because if it was 80% experience, then people wouldn't have been at level 47 or 48 by the end there. However, there's also what seems like a catch-up mechanic with experience, so it is possible that they do get less experience, but if you have higher level characters, then lower level characters get more experience, which kind of makes the whole backup party members get less experience silly to me, but it requires a little bit more experimentation on my part, and I didn't want to do that. Mostly because I forgot, but yeah. Miscellaneous for sound and music. I did a Level Up This playlist episode of Rise Fantasia, and I talked about my favorite tracks on there. So I hardly ever plug any of my own stuff. So if you want to know how I feel about this soundtrack, you can go over there. But spoilers. I found some pretty great tracks on there. So it was pretty good OST. For voice acting, I think voice acting on this game has probably been beaten to death. But the voice acting in this game is not great. The emotional elements of this game have negative, good impact. You're more likely to laugh at an emotional element in this game than you are to sympathize with the characters. But that being said, the voice acting doesn't really bother me. I don't think the voice acting was detrimental to my experience. I've certainly heard worse. And I appreciate that the entire main story, for the most part, I would say like 98-99% was voice acted. So that was cool. So, props to that. For graphics, I thought the graphics were fine. Nothing there. Replay value: does the game offer additional story content in a second playthrough to warrant playing the game again, like Fire Emblem Three Houses? I don't think so. Didn't really get any indication of that. But, we can double check here. Yeah, 58 hours. I'm pretty sure 58 hours is not taking into account all the times that I died. I think there is some post-game content or something like that for this game. So that might be something to be aware of. Is the game worth recommending? No, not really. If you like grinding, and there are a lot of really nice grinding elements in this game that I enjoyed. I enjoyed unlocking the armed forces on weapons and being able to use them to puzzle piece together what strategies I wanted. But other than that, you're either not going to enjoy the game because of the voice acting. You're not going to enjoy the game because of the grinding that you have to do in order to have those moments where you feel powerful. But even if you do that, like I did, then you're still going to run into the roadblocks that I ran into. And ultimately, it really just comes down to, is this game worth playing over other games? And I don't think it is. It's a decent game, has great ideas, but I wouldn't go to somebody and say, you know what, Rise Fantasia, that game's the bomb diggity. You should play that over Dragon Quest XI or Final Fantasy VII Remake or something like that, I think there's plenty of fantastic games out here, and you don't have to play Rise Fantasia. You will not be missing out. Would I play it again, whether immediately, near future, or distant future? No. If the developers are watching, I don't really have too much to say about this one. It's a little unfortunate, Taco Tuesday playing a role in all this. Ultimately, I think this game has a lot of great ideas, and I would certainly be curious to see the evolution of those ideas in another title, whether it's a sequel or a spiritual successor, yada yada, this and that. I don't know the circumstances revolving around this game, whether it needed 10k more funds or some other craziness, but I think when it comes down to it is there are some flaws with this game, and some of them are very in your face, and some of them take 5+ hours to overcome. And I think the game would have been better off with either a little bit more time put into it to overcome those issues, or a little bit more thought put into those issues. Because when someone goes to like play test this game, I think they're going to run into those issues, and I think the solution to those issues are, well, we need more time, or we need more funding, or we need more people, or what have you. So yeah, that's where I'm going to end it with Arc Rise Fantasia. Overall thoughts: I was enjoying the journey until I didn't, and then the roadblocks that I ran into basically destroyed my enjoyment of the game. I still enjoy the moments that I had with the game, but after a certain point, I just stopped having fun, and the story stopped being interesting to me because characters don't want to talk, so yeah, that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thanks for watching, appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow, probably to play something new, who knows. For now, we're gonna raid Nakuri. I'm gonna go maybe get tacos on time. This is kind of risky. But yeah, thanks for watching, appreciate it. See you the next time I see you. Peace. There we go. It was like, I don't speak, what is this, French? Le Donjon de Nuremberg. I don't know.
I'm excited to work with Psionics and Monster
Is he like, is he trying to rap or something? Or is that just the way he talks?
Starting tonight, you can
Isn't that the same thing as rapping?
in the item shop and grab my free band. Let's check out the season 2 trailer featuring my brand new track that I made just for you guys.
Sorry.
And I call it
Blow.
Reset.
Oh man.